By late summer 1944, General George S. Patton's U.S. Third Army was sweeping across France with remarkable speed. Following the breakout from Normandy, his armored columns raced eastward, liberating town after town. What had begun as a rapid advance soon turned into a campaign of endurance. Supply lines stretched thin, fuel ran short, and the German army, though retreating, was far from defeated. Ahead of Patton stood the ancient fortress city of Metz, located along the Moselle River in northeastern France. Historically a stronghold since Roman times, Metz was now fortified by the German First Army under General Otto von Knobelsdorff, with strategic oversight by General Hermann Balck of Army Group G. The city was ringed by dozens of 19th-century forts, modernized by the Germans into an interconnected defense system of bunkers, minefields, and artillery positions. Patton's orders from Supreme Allied Commander General Dwight D. Eisenhower were to push toward the German border and the Saar region. Metz stood directly in the way. It was not just a city, it was a fortress, and the Germans intended to make it a symbol of resistance. Terrain, weather, and strategic challenge. The terrain around Metz was a defender's dream and an attacker's nightmare. The Moselle River cut through hills, forests, and open farmland. September rains turned roads into mud, and the Moselle flooded its banks. Patton's tanks, his greatest asset, were slowed or trapped in the heavy terrain. By early September 1944, Patton's divisions, including the 5th Infantry Division and 7th Armored Division, were positioned west of Metz. They had driven more than 400 miles in a few weeks, and their supplies were exhausted. Fuel shortages forced entire armored units to halt. Ammunition and food were rationed. Despite this, Patton pressed forward, refusing to lose momentum. His German opponents knew exactly what to expect. General Knobelsdorff's defense used the Fessin, fortified groups, around Metz, such as Fort Driant, Fort Jeanne d'Arc, and Fort St. Quentin, as anchors for an elastic defense. These forts, built of concrete and steel, withstood even direct artillery fire. The German troops manning them were veterans from the 462nd Volksgrenadier Division, reinforced with SS and Luftwaffe ground units. Patton's challenge was clear: assault a fortified city in poor weather, across rivers, with tired troops and limited supplies. It was a test of both endurance and ingenuity. The first assaults. In early September, Patton ordered crossings of the Moselle River. His 5th Infantry Division, under Major General Stafford Irwin, attacked near Arneville. The first attempts failed under withering artillery and machine gun fire from German positions overlooking the river. Bridges were destroyed before they could be completed, and engineers were picked off by snipers and mortars. Patton, furious but undeterred, demanded renewed attacks. On September 10, 1944, under cover of darkness and smoke, American engineers finally threw pontoon bridges across the Moselle. Infantrymen crawled over under heavy fire. Tanks followed, slipping on the wet planks as they crossed. By dawn, the bridgehead at Arneville was secure, but casualties were high. Patton's men had fought hand-to-hand in flooded trenches and farmhouses. German counterattacks followed almost immediately, supported by 88mm guns and self-propelled artillery. American artillery responded with devastating barrages. The skies were gray with smoke and rain. The smell of cordite and burning diesel filled the air. Patton arrived at the front in his command jeep, standing upright, field glasses in hand. "There's no time to rest," he told his staff. "We'll take Metz or we'll die trying." The siege of the forts. Once across the Moselle, Patton faced the full reality of Metz's fortifications. The forts were not isolated strong points, they formed overlapping fields of fire. Each fort was designed to support the others, creating a deadly web. Fort Driant, positioned on a hill west of Metz, became the focus of the first major assault. The 11th Infantry Regiment attacked it in mid-September. The fort's 150mm guns and underground tunnels made it nearly impenetrable. American infantry and engineers tried flamethrowers, explosives, and even direct tank fire. The walls simply absorbed the punishment. Rain turned the battlefield into mud. Wounded men drowned in flooded trenches. After days of brutal combat, the Americans withdrew. It was one of the rare times Patton admitted a local defeat. He wrote in his diary, "The Germans are defending Metz like it was Berlin itself." Meanwhile, other forts, Jeanne d'Arc, St. Blaise, and Plappeville, continued to resist. Each required separate operations. Artillery fire had limited effect. Airstrikes were hampered by weather. The German garrisons, though short on supplies, fought with discipline and skill. Patton adapted. He shifted tactics, ordering his engineers to isolate each fort, cutting communication lines and supply routes. He directed his artillery to concentrate on inter-fort corridors, choking German movement. It was slow, grinding warfare, the kind he despised, but necessary. German counterattacks and stalemate. By October, the Germans launched a series of counterattacks to relieve Metz. Patton's lines were hit near Nancy and Arneville. The 17th SS Panzergrenadier Division and 3rd Panzergrenadier Division attempted to break through. The Americans repelled them with a combination of artillery barrages and air support when weather allowed. Patton's army faced not just the Germans, but the weather itself. Heavy rain, cold wind, and fog grounded aircraft and bogged down vehicles. Soldiers fought from waterlogged foxholes. Rifles jammed, tanks stalled, and supply trucks skidded on muddy slopes. Patton's staff urged him to pause operations until spring. He refused. "We will attack," he said, "and keep attacking. The enemy must never think we stop." Still, the campaign became a war of attrition. Artillery duels thundered day and night. The Moselle crossings were attacked repeatedly. Every hill, village, and road junction was contested. American engineers worked under fire to repair bridges and roads. The German defense at Metz tied down 4 U.S. divisions for over 2 months. Renewed offensive and encirclement. By November 1944, conditions improved slightly. The Third Army received fresh supplies and reinforcements. Patton planned a final coordinated assault to encircle Metz and crush its defenses. The 95th Infantry Division attacked from the north, crossing the Moselle near Uckange. The 5th Infantry Division pushed from the south. Meanwhile, the 10th Armored Division moved eastward to block escape routes. Patton ordered a full-scale artillery bombardment on November 9. More than 140,000 shells fell on the German lines in a single day. The effect was devastating. Many German bunkers were smashed, and communication between the forts broke down. American infantry advanced block by block, using flamethrowers and satchel charges to clear bunkers. Combat engineers blasted through reinforced doors. Despite the onslaught, the German garrisons fought with remarkable stubbornness. Many refused to surrender even when surrounded. At Fort Jeanne d'Arc, over 800 men held out until November 22, forcing the Americans to seal the tunnels with explosives. By November 19, Patton's troops entered the city of Metz itself. The once beautiful city was scarred by artillery and fire. German snipers and rear guards fought from rooftops and cellars. Street fighting continued for days. Finally, on November 22, 1944, Metz was officially captured. But many surrounding forts did not surrender until late December, even after the city had fallen. The German defense, strength and skill. The German defense of Metz remains one of the most disciplined of the war. Under General Hermann Balck, the First Army executed a textbook delay operation, buying critical time for Germany to reinforce the West Wall, Siegfried Line, on its border. The defenders' use of terrain, fortifications, and morale was exceptional. Despite inferior resources, they managed to slow one of the most mobile armies in history. Their resistance delayed Patton's drive into Germany by nearly 2 months, time the German High Command used to prepare for their next major offensive, the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. Patton, though frustrated by the delay, respected their tenacity. In a letter to his wife, he wrote, "The German at Metz fought well, better than most. But in the end, he died well too." Aftermath and significance. The capture of Metz came at a heavy price. The Third Army suffered over 10,000 casualties in the campaign. Entire units were decimated by artillery and cold exposure. Yet Patton's persistence achieved what many thought impossible. Strategically, Metz secured the Moselle River line and opened the path toward the Saar and the German border. It also gave the Allies control of key road networks vital for the next phase of the advance into the Rhineland. More importantly, Metz tested the American Army's ability to fight a determined enemy in difficult conditions. It forced Patton, known for speed and aggression, to adapt to siege warfare. The lessons learned at Metz would prove crucial in the coming months. When the Germans launched their Ardennes offensive in December, Patton's forces were battle-hardened, experienced, and ready to respond with the speed and decisiveness that would define the rest of his career. Conclusion: the Battle of Metz was not a swift or glamorous victory. It was slow, grinding, and bloody. But it revealed the depth of General George S. Patton's leadership, his refusal to yield, his adaptability under pressure, and his belief that discipline and aggression would always overcome fear. For the Germans, Metz was a delaying action fought with courage and professionalism. For the Americans, it was a costly but essential step toward the heart of Nazi Germany. When the guns finally fell silent, the forts of Metz lay in ruins, the Moselle ran red, and the men of Patton's Third Army had learned what it truly meant to fight for every inch of ground.